everyone, it's Jennifer from Flux. In this video, we're going to learn how to crochet this beautiful Hydrangea Garden Baby Blanket. This is a very quick and easy project. It's very plushy and soft, and we're going to use some thick yarn and a large hook so it stitches up very quickly. And I've picked a fun variegated color, but this looks equally as beautiful in a solid color or a self-striping yarn as well. We're going to learn how to work up the stitches, and if you want something a little bit bigger than a baby blanket, you can hop on over to the Flux blog. There's a sizing chart, and I'm going to teach you later on in the video how to work multiples to make your blanket wider, and also how to work rows to make your blanket taller. So you can really customize it too as well. So let's get started. The finished blanket measures about 45 inches wide and 35 inches tall. However, like I mentioned before, you can easily change the dimensions to suit your needs as well. For this project, you'll need a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle, a tape measure is super helpful to measure as you go along. We're going to be using a 9mm crochet hook. This is my Furls Candy Shop hook, in case you're wondering. I always get questions about my hooks. Now, a side note about the 9mm hook, depending on the manufacturer, they'll call it different letters. I've seen the 9mm called an N hook. I've seen it called an M/N. So I would worry less about the letter, but just make sure it's the 9mm crochet hook. The yarn that we're going to be using is Bernat Baby Blanket. I'm going to be using 2 balls of this in the Posy Purple colorway. This is just a really pretty spring kind of shades here. It reminds me of hydrangeas. And each ball of this is 220 yards, 10.5 ounces, 300 grams, or 201 meters. This is machine wash and dry, which I think is so nice for blankets for babies and kids. And it is super soft, and the recommended hook size, if you do need to substitute yarn, is a 8mm 8mm US L crochet hook. We're going to go up a size just to give it a little bit more drape. And this is a super bulky 6 on the yarn weight scale. So if you kind of follow those guidelines for substitutions, you'll be just fine. And again, we're going to be using 2 balls of this in the Posy Purple colorway. We're going to begin by putting a slip knot on our hook. So wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop. Bring the yarn behind the loop. Reach in with your hook, bring up a loop, and tighten. Next, we're going to do our starting chain. So our starting chain is a multiple of 4 plus 2. If you're not familiar with this concept, all that means is when you're doing your starting chain, you're just going to go 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 and so forth until you get the width that you want of your blanket, and then add 2 more chains onto that. So our starting chain is 66. Again, that's a multiple of 4 plus 2 if you wanted to change it. So to make a chain, let me just zoom in a little bit more. We're going to wrap yarn around the hook and bring it through the loop. Again, we're going to do 66 chains. So here is our starting chain, and you don't want to make your starting chain too tight because it'll be harder to work into these chains. I do get this question a lot. If you're having trouble with the tightness of your starting chain, try going up a hook size for the starting chain only, and then you can go back down to the one we talked about that we're going to be using for the rest of the project as you make the rest of your blanket. So let's work on row 1 together. Now row 1 is the row where we're going to be counting and skipping things, and then after that it's just a piece of cake. So hang in there with me for this row, and then the next 2 rows will be super duper easy. So what we're going to do for row 1 is we're going to double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So let me just, this one was a little bit loose, I'm going to redo it. There we go. Okay, so this loop here does not count. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if you notice, this yarn is super fluffy, so I kind of have to go like in a circle to kind of find that loop. So we're going to double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So to make a double crochet, wrap the yarn around the hook, insert it into that chain, bring up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. That's a double crochet. In the next chain, we're going to also work a double crochet. And then what we're going to do in the next chain, right here, we're going to work a double crochet, chain 3 double crochet. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that all in the same chain. So double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then double crochet all in that same chain, just like that. Okay, and that's going to give us this big loop. We're going to be working into that in the next row. Then what we're going to do is skip the next chain. So this chain here, we're going to skip, and then we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 2 chains. So work a double crochet in that chain, double crochet in the next chain. Okay, then in the chain after that, what we're going to do is the same thing we did back here. Double crochet, chain 3, double crochet, all in that same chain. So double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and double crochet all in that same chain. Just like that, okay? So we're going to be creating a series of loops. Okay, then what we're going to do is skip the next chain, work a double crochet in each of the next 2 chains. So if you notice, we're repeating our sequence. So double crochet in each of the next 2 chains, and then in the chain after that, do the same thing. Double crochet, chain 3, double crochet. So I did my double crochet, and then here's my chain 3, and then double crochet all in that same chain. Okay, skip the next chain, work a double crochet in each of the next 2 chains. So double crochet, double crochet, and then in the chain after that, we'll do the same thing. Double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to get a little bit more yarn off my yarn ball here, and then double crochet all in that same chain. And this fast changing yarn color here is giving us a lot of really fun variegated yarn color changes. So that's always exciting. Okay, then we're going to skip the next chain, work a double crochet in each of the next 2 chains. So double crochet in that next chain. Okay, we're going to create our loop here. So double crochet, chain 3, double crochet. So double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and double crochet all in that same chain. Skip the next chain, work a double crochet in each of the next 2 chains. Double crochet, double crochet. Okay, then in the chain after that, do your double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, double crochet all in that same chain. Skip the next chain. Again, if you have to kind of roll it to locate that stitch, that's kind of what I do because it's very fluffy. Okay, so we're skipping the next chain, work a double crochet in each of the next 2 chains. So double crochet, double crochet. Okay, and then in the next chain, work a double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, double crochet all in that same chain. We are, I would say, about halfway through. Skip the next chain. Now that we are halfway through, I do want to say as a side note, if you've mastered this, feel free to kind of move ahead on your own. If not, just hang out with me. There's also a slow motion feature if you prefer that as well. All right, moving right along, we're going to skip the next chain, work a double crochet in each of the next 2 chains. So double crochet, double crochet. Then in the next chain, work our double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and double crochet in that same chain. All right, skip the next chain. In the chain after that, work a double crochet and do that in each of the next 2 chains. So double crochet, double crochet, and then in the chain after that, we're going to do our double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, double crochet on that same chain. Skip the next chain, work a double crochet in each of the next 2 chains. So double crochet, double crochet, and then in the next chain, work double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and double crochet on that same chain. Then sometimes our chain gets twisty. Just make sure it's straight and not twisting as you work. Skip the next chain, work a double crochet in each of the next 2 chains. So double crochet, double crochet. In the chain after that, work your double crochet, chain 3. 1, 2, 3, double crochet. Skip the next chain, work a double crochet in each of the next 2 chains. So double crochet. In the next chain, work your double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and double crochet on that same chain. And then skip the next chain, work a double crochet in each of the next 2 chains. 1 and 2. Then in the next chain, work your double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, double crochet. Skip the next chain, work a double crochet in each of the next 2 chains. So double crochet, double crochet. And then in the chain after that, work a double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, double crochet. All right, we are almost at the end, just a little bit to go. So then what we're going to do is skip the next chain, work a double crochet in each of the next 2 chains. We're just doing the same sequence all the way across here. And then in that next chain, work a double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, double crochet on that same chain. Skip the next chain, work a double crochet in each of the next 2 chains. 1 and 2. Okay, so if all goes well, you should have a chain left, just one little chain left on here. Now, if you have 2, it's no big deal. If you don't have 1, it's okay. If you're off by 1, it's no big deal. Now, if you have 6, that might be a problem. But what you can do is at the very end of the row, in that last chain, just work a regular double crochet. Okay? Now, if you were short a chain, just work that last one in the same chain as this one. If you had an extra, just still work it in that very last chain, okay? So row 1 is complete, and we have all of our little loops that we created. Now, we're going to move on to row 2 and then move on to row 3, and that's the row 3 is the row that you repeat for the remainder of the project. So once we get to row 3, you'll be able to kind of take off. And like I mentioned before, this was the hardest row. We had to skip things and count things. The next rows, 2 and 3, will be much easier. We're just gonna be working into these spaces, okay? So let's move on to the next row. So for row 2, we're gonna chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're gonna turn our work. So just grab everything and flip it over. Then what we're gonna do is, whoops, mine just flipped right off the table there. Then what we're going to do is locate that first chain 3 space. Okay, we're going to do a couple of these together. This one is more straightforward, so we don't have to go through the whole row together. We'll do the first couple of sets together. Okay, so look for that first chain 3 space. So in each chain 3 space all the way across, we're going to work 3 double crochet, chain 3, 1 double crochet. And we're going to do that in every chain 3 space all the way across. So let's do a few of these together. All right, so we have our chain 3 space, and you're going to work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3. This is all in the same chain 3 space from the previous row. Okay, so 3 double crochet, and then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then if you need to slide things over a bit, that's fine. Then we're going to work 1 more double crochet in that same space. So it should look like this. It's going to sort of look like a topsy-turvy granny stripe, okay? All right, let's do a few more of these together, and then we can kind of work on the row on our own until we get to the end. Hop over to the next chain 3 space and do the same thing. 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3. Normally for this stitch, I like to kind of scoot things over. It sort of neatens things up a little bit, but it's up to you. Then you're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Then work 1 more double crochet in that same space, okay? So you can start to see things are kind of unfolding a little bit here. Let's do 1 more together, and then we'll work on the row on our own. Go to the next chain 3 space and work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 1 more. Again, I like to just scoot things over a little, and then work 1 more double crochet in that same space, okay? So let's continue doing the same thing. We're going to work on those on our own, and then once we get towards the end of this row, I'm going to show you how to finish up the row as well. Just coming up to that very last chain 3 space, and once again, we're going to do 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, and I like to once again slide that stuff over just so it sits on there nicer. And then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then work 1 more double crochet into that same chain 3 space. Okay, so to finish up row 2, what we need to do is work 3 double crochets in the 3rd chain of our turning chain. So if we look at our turning chain here on the side, we have 1, 2, 3. So it's right on top there. We're going to work 3 double crochets in that 3rd chain up, okay? So 1, 2, and 3. Just like that, okay? So row 2 is complete. The next row and final row we're going to learn how to do is row 3. Row 3 is almost exactly like row 2. The only thing that's different about row 3 is the very end of the row, how we finish off the row in this one little section here. So I am going to show you the beginning of row 3 just as a refresher, but just know it's going to look identical in the beginning. So what we need to do is chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn our work. You just grab all this, flip it over, and we're going to do the same thing we did in the previous row. So in each of these chain 3 spaces that we had in our previous row, we're going to work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3. Just like that. Again, if you want to slide things over a little bit to give yourself some more room, then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then work another double crochet in that same chain 3 space. So this looks very familiar because we just did this in the previous row, okay? So then what we need to do is just do the same thing in every chain 3 space all the way across. So let's do 1 more together. 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3. chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and work a double crochet in that same space, okay? So just do that in every chain 3 space all the way across. So go all the way across your row. And then once again, once we get towards the end of row 3, I'm going to show you how to finish off row 3. Just coming up to the end of row 3 in that chain 3 space, we're going to work our last little group of 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3. Sliding things over if you need to. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 1 double crochet in that seam space. Okay, that just to finish off the row here with our groups. And then at the end, remember that big turning chain we did, a chain 5 and turn? What you're going to do is count 5 chains up. So this topmost chain here, you're going to work 3 double crochets. So if you look at your turning chain and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right there, work 3 double crochets in that 5th chain up. So 1, 2, and 3. So like I mentioned before, this row was almost identical to row 2, but in the at the end of row 2, we just worked our turning chain and our double crochets into the turning chain a little bit differently. So what you need to do for the rest of your blanket is to keep repeating row 3 over and over and over again until your blanket is as tall as you would like it to be, or when you run out of yarn, whatever happens first and whatever height that you like best. So I'm going to keep going with my row 3 and we'll return in just a bit and we're going to finish off our blanket. Just working that very last stitch of our blanket. And I don't have quite enough to start a new row. So what we're going to do next is cut the yarn. And we're going to fasten off. So wrap the yarn around the hook and pull it through the loop. And then you'll just need to grab your tapestry needle. Now I have a few other ends I'm going to weave in as well. But you're going to grab your tapestry needle and you're just going to go in the center of all these loops that you have here. Okay, so just go in with your tapestry needle. And pull it through. And then what I like to do is also come in the other direction as well, just to kind of lock that tail into place. Now this yarn is very plushy and it has a lot of grip to it, so you won't really have too many problems with the ends popping out. And then grab your scissors and give it a little tug and a snip, and then just straighten everything out. So all of our ends have been woven in and the blanket looks absolutely beautiful. So that is how you crochet the Hydrangea Garden Baby Blanket. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiber Flux video updates. Thanks again.